Hi, I'm Brooke. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to talk to you about what some people call Kundalini Awakening. I had an experience with it and it was amazing. So I want to share it here. My goal is just to share some of these things that have happened to me. I know that I like hearing these stories. And I do think when you hear something new, it shifts your perspective, opens you up, kind of like opens up a portal or a doorway within you if you're interested. Um, and I didn't really start out spiritual or a seeker or anything like that, but things have happened to me along the way. And now I'm like all in for all kinds of things. But at the time that this happened, I was very surprised. So a little bit about me. I'm an artist. I'm a fine art photographer. I'm in my art gallery in Manhattan Beach. And these are some of my pieces of artwork behind me. And my whole thing is just really being in the present moment, enjoying the simple pleasures, something like looking up at a tree. I mean, that's where it's at. Beauty is everywhere. There's so much to enjoy right in front of your face. That's what I have learned through photography. So if you're interested in artwork, I'm going to post a link to my website and my Instagram. And let's talk Kundalini. Or just opening opening yourself up. So when I had that experience, I really had no idea what was going on. And I don't know that you have to even label it. I'm not much of a label person. But so what happened to me was I actually did photography for hire. I worked for companies. I helped them with their social media, and part of that was taking pictures for them. Little by little, people started to ask to buy my artwork, and I really wanted to do that, but I was feeling like, I don't know, something was holding me back. So I happened to see a video one day of Dr. Joe Dispenza. Probably if you're watching this video, maybe you know who he is. If not, look him up. He's awesome. And he put out there was a video about where he talks about rewiring your brain, right? And I thought, oh, that's what I need. I need to rewire my brain so that I can like put my artwork out there, right? And so I bought his book, You Are the Placebo. No, I didn't buy it. I got it from the library. I was going to the library a lot at that point. Got it from the library and I read it, and it was, it really made sense to me. I really thought, you know what? I get this. This is, you know, you can, everything is a suggestion, right? And you can make your own suggestions to yourself. You don't have to allow the outside world to suggest. And in the book, it talked about meditations. I had never meditated, but I really enjoyed this book. I really wanted to make this change. So I went and I did buy some meditations. Didn't buy the book, but I bought the meditations. And the first meditation that I started to do was something called Blessing of the Energy Centers. And he has a bunch of those, it's like a whole series. And you focus on your energy centers, or you can call them chakras. And you basically just send a lot of, healing and love and whatever to each one. I think a lot of people do those if they have like a physical illness. I didn't have a physical illness, but, I clearly had blocks in my energy field. I'm still working on things, right? Still a work in progress, but I cleared a lot of stuff out of the way. So I did that Blessing of the Energy Centers #1. I really enjoyed it. Highly recommend it. I think that first one, the original one, is still my favorite. He has like updates, but I like the original. Anyways, after a few weeks, I went to #2. I figured I'd done the first one a lot and felt really good about it. So the first time I did the #2 blessing, energy centered blessing, whatever, there's like music and sounds, the whole guided meditation. And when it gets up to the sixth center, there was like this crunching sound. And I hated it. I can't even tell you, I was like, angry. Something about that sound really bothered me. And the rest of the meditation I liked before and after. But I hated that sound. When the meditation was over, I literally was like, well, that was a stupid sound, and I'm never doing that meditation. I was like mad about it, which is kind of hilarious. And for me, I think the things that make me, I mean, now I've learned like if something really triggers you, that's something for you to look at, right? Anyway, so I didn't like it and I thought, well, I'm never doing that again. So, a couple weeks later, I sat down to do my meditation and I just was like, I'm doing that. Number two, blessing the energy centers. I'm not letting some sound bother me. Isn't the whole point of this meditation is to pick and choose what you're going to focus on? And, I'm in charge of me and all this stuff. So I was like, I had this feeling, this energy, and this knowing, like, do that meditation, right? So I sat down, I pushed play, and right away there was an energy, like I could feel this energy in my body, and it was like building and building. As the meditation, you go up the centers, right? And I could feel it rising. I mean, I had no idea what I was in for, but it was like this rising energy. And when it got up to my head, got up to the sixth center being like the pineal gland, what people call the third eye, the sort of ability to see beyond, right? So it gets up to the sixth center and that sound starts, and then boom. It was like a lightning struck the top of my head. I, I've never been struck by lightning, but this is what I imagine it feels like. This massive surge, this like bolt of energy, the surge went into my head, down through my body, through the center of my body, into my root. I could hear myself. I had headphones, but I could hear myself like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And it was just like this massive surge of energy. My whole body convulsed. And before I could really think about what had happened, I was just sort of in nothing. I was like in this sort of vision of nothing. I was in like in a void. And then I could see people coming towards me. And I had this knowing I see basically everyone I've ever known my whole life, right? And the first people that came into focus were family members, people that I know I love, but you love someone, but also remember the time they were annoying, you know how it is, right? But in this experience, it was just this pure, unconditional love, this bliss, this feeling I had never experienced. Oh, you guys, it was amazing. And it was just this, yeah, like perfection, this bliss, this ecstasy, this love without any condition, this pure joy. And I was crying tears of joy. The feeling was just this overwhelming, beautiful, amazing feeling. And I was like hugging all these people and so happy. And then what's interesting is that I started to see people that I know I don't like, right? Had a fight with them. I don't talk to them anymore. I really don't like them, right? But in this experience, I would see these people that supposedly I don't like, right? But I would go up to them and be like, I know I'm not supposed to like you, but that's not true. I love you. And then we would laugh and hug and be like, remember when we pretended not to like each other? And I had that same feeling of unconditional, complete love like I did for my mother, right? It was like the exact same feeling for this person that I'd had a big falling out with or something. It didn't matter. And I mean, I could have never come up with, I can't even begin to tell you. I could never, at that point in my life, I was so on edge, so depressed. I I would never have come up with anything like that, especially to see someone that I knew I was annoyed with. And the feeling was just so, oh, so incredible. And at some point, the meditation ended. I sort of came back to myself. I remember I was wearing a pink sweatshirt, like a zip up hoodie, and it was wet from crying, tears of joy. And I remember thinking, what just happened to me? I was not a person that was like, oh, I love everybody. Like that wasn't it, right? I was so blown away, but it was absolutely unbelievably amazing. And then, so what happened was, so for the next 3 days, I basically walked around in this state of ecstasy. It stayed with me, that feeling, and it would kind of come in waves, but it was like this overwhelming feeling of love, that everything's okay. Like my whole body, just everything. I mean, I felt like I was on drugs, except not, like not out of control. And I was in the market one day, and there's this market, it will remain nameless. They're one of the major grocery stores near my house that before this experience, I used to just hate it in there. I used to get really depressed. It was like something depressing. It was like, ugh, like everyone in there was like gross to me and it had a depressing vibe. But I went in this feeling, right? Not thinking, I just needed whatever I needed that day. And I went in there and I remember I'm standing in line and it like, oh, that feeling just washed over me. And all of a sudden I could see like a web of electricity connecting everybody. And I could feel, oh my God, I'm connected to everyone in this market. And it felt amazing. It's hilarious when I think about, I mean, no offense to anybody, but the people in this market, not the kind of people that I would have thought I would want to be connected to, to put it in blunt terms, right? But in that feeling, it was like, oh my God, this is amazing. I'm connected to everyone in here and I could see it and I could feel it. And I remember I was smiling so big that I got up to the cashier and I'm thinking, oh my God, she's going to think I'm high, right? Because I was like, that's all I could think of, like, do I look stoned? But I mean, I guess I was in some way, right? And then let's be clear, I did not take any drugs. It was all from this meditation. And it just, yeah, that feeling just stayed. And eventually it did fade out. I went back to being myself. And so that was the experience itself. So now I'll tell you about, so it did go away, or I kind of went back to myself, although, you're never the same, I suppose, but I didn't have that like ecstatic feeling. And so I started to try and make it happen again, right? And of course it didn't. I was like trying so hard. And then I started to get really depressed, right? Because I was like, oh God, please, I need that feeling, right? And I went through like a couple months of like really, because I was already a little bit depressed before. And then I had this major high, right? And then I felt like I lost it. And so it's something, because I do think this is something that happens to people. Um, and so what I realized, and if you're there or you get there, this is what eventually happened. So I kept trying to make it happen again, and kept getting more and more upset and frustrated. And finally, one day, I sat myself down and I was like, you gotta let go, right? If it never happens again, it's okay. I'm so happy it happened. I'll never forget it. This was the most incredible thing, right? I'm so happy I had this experience. And if it never happens again, it is okay. I'm okay. And I really felt it. I really internalized that. And so I let go. And after that, I never had the exact same experience, but I started to have all kinds of like just mystical, magical, like meditations with like amazing psychedelic, like amazing things after that. And so whatever, if you're holding on to anything, and I always have to remind myself, I always remind myself of that. I really talked to myself, I really sat myself down and had a talking to, like, you know what? Well, what are you going to do? It was great. And you have the memory. And that's what also I realized, like, I have the memory. I can always tap in to that feeling. It's always with me. It's not that it's lost. The specific thing might not be happening exactly, but that memory is with me, that feeling is with me and never went anywhere. and I can always tap in and feel it. And so that is my experience with that energy. And I definitely started to sell my art and do other things after. And as a result of doing the Dr. Joe meditations, that really, like, his meditations really, really opened up something in me. His information I liked, especially then. I wasn't so spiritual or anything, but I like there's a lot of information that he has that explains, like, this is how your brain works. This is, you get in this brain wave and then you can hypnotize yourself. He's very practical in a lot of ways, although then if you really get into his stuff, it gets out there, which I like now, but at the time I wouldn't have been able to handle. So if you're new to all this, or I recommend looking at his stuff, looking at his there's all kinds of stuff online. I mean, I know you can buy some of his courses. You can probably find some things on YouTube where he really explains what happens in your brain and body. And I think that's really helpful. I like to know what's going on. And he also has like all these people that have testimonials, which I think is always helpful. Like I said in the beginning, I think when you expose yourself to an idea, you start to invite it into your experience. So, be careful what you invite in. If you want this kind of experience, then, it's good to listen to stories about it. And I know I've heard stories where people talk about that energy and it being painful and other things like that. It wasn't for me. I have another story actually where that energy came in through my feet in a different scenario, and it was painful, but not wasn't terrible. But I'll tell that in another video. But when it came down through my head, it just went right straight through. Didn't stop, didn't do anything. I've heard all kinds of stories now, but it just went straight through. And then I went into this state of like pure bliss, nirvana, whatever you want to call it, oneness, etc. It was just great. Highly recommend. But I would say whatever you're doing, and what I'm just remind myself, you can't force it, right? I really wasn't, I had no idea that anything like that was possible. I was just looking to make some kind of change in my life, just to feel something. And and then this came in, and I feel like everything I've done that has like some significant shift or one of these kind of experiences, it's usually like I'm not forcing it, at least with me. Some people are good, like they can repeat the experience over and over. Like I said, when I try to afterwards, when I try to force it, I think because I was moving from a place of like desperate feeling, like I want it again, that doesn't work. I don't think that works for anyone. Definitely doesn't work for me. I think the key to everything is to relax and allow. Um, but that's my story and I'm sticking to it. So if you enjoyed, please like, comment, and subscribe. And if you have questions, please leave it in the comments. If you want to hear any other kind of stories, I'm just going to tell all these stories. I've had all kinds of really wild, awesome, mystical experiences. So I'm just going to share them. Why not? Okay. Thanks for watching. Good night. Let's see. I'm going to stop. Goodbye.